whoever had the strongest personality when I was a kid, or whoever called dibs first, was the banker when playing Monopoly. I mean, the banker was really the king of the game. You had all the money. Fake money, but still money. And when someone owed the bank money, you put out your hand like it was like you were the god of the bank, and you reveled in taking it. It wasn't your money, it was the bank's money, but you still took the money and put it in the pot. What is it about this cultural phenomenon, a game that symbolizes capitalism at its finest, that spawns heated arguments between family members and loved ones and testing friendships? Well, today, we're going to find out. Some say it has to be Boardwalk or Park Place. You've got to get those properties to win the game. Others say, no, you get those railroads and you get your constant stream of money because it's $200 every single time you land on the railroad if you get all 4 railroads. Other people are like, no, they love the slumlord properties, the Baltic and the Mediterranean right after Go, so that every time you pass Go, you steal somebody's salary. That's basically what it is. The Go, when you pass Go, it's your salary, and your salary is taken. Just like the income tax is right there. The luxury tax and the income tax, right around the time where you get paid. Interesting, isn't it? Well, today, folks, we're going to question the game of Monopoly. My name is Aaton, and welcome to my cosmic awakening. Imagine a world, if you will, putting on my Rod Serling hat, where a seemingly innocent board game played in countless homes across multiple generations isn't just entertainment, but instead a subtle instrument of, shall we say, social engineering. Today I pose that Monopoly, in its commercialized form, was deliberately designed and widely promoted to drive home the inherent inequalities of a capitalist system rigged for an elite few. Far from being a natural pastime, what if the game trains players, especially impressionable children and families, to accept their role as renters, trapped in a cycle of debt, taxes, and chance, while the bank, a stand-in for the central financial institutions, wields unlimited power? What if Monopoly's mass adoption in the 20th century wasn't accidental? Instead, it was a calculated effort by corporate and economic elites to embed this into the psyche, making resistance to real-world exploitation seem futile and even unnatural. It's just a thought that I had. So why don't we break this down a bit and see where it goes? So let's first, before we delve into Dowsing Monopoly, and we're gonna have a fun time with this because there's a few people or entities that I'm going to douse and I'm going to try to connect with to get some answers about this game. But before we do, let's just go over a few facts about the game Monopoly. Monopoly is one of the most iconic and best-selling board games in history, with over 275 million copies sold worldwide, and estimates that it has been played by more than 1 billion people. That's a lot of people, folks. A conspiratorial theory, Monopoly as a tool for indoctrinating the masses into renter enslavement and banking supremacy. So here are the rules as a blueprint for renter enslavement. Let me read this real quick here. So Monopoly was created by supposedly a woman We're going to get into that. There's a few creators of Monopoly in its form, right? But there were two versions. The first version was called an anti-monopolist version, where wealth creation benefited everyone equally. And then another version, a monopolist version, where players crushed each other through land grabs and rents, highlighting the evils of unchecked property speculation. And we're going to get into just in a couple more slides who was the anti-monopolist version, who created that, and who created the monopolist version. The rules explicitly state that if the bank runs out of money, you simply make more using paper or IOUs. Unlimited fiat currency at the bank's disposal. Now, what does that remind you of? The Federal Reserve, maybe? Taxes. There are taxes all over monopoly. We've got our income tax. We've got our luxury tax. And that's another thing. Every time you go around the board, you have the possibility of going to jail. And you don't even know why. Were you speeding? Were you pulled over for a DUI? Are you a criminal, for crying out loud? And honestly, I've got some of these pieces right here. Now, if you're a car, I can understand the speeding, the cowboy. This is an old piece. I don't even know if this is in a lot of the more recent games of Monopoly. This is old. The hat? How can a hat be pulled over and go to jail? A thimble? What did you do some kind of sewing criminal activity? Some illegal ironing? That's it. You did some illegal ironing. Okay, well, that makes sense. Every roll of the dice reinforces submission. The game drags on for hours, simulating the grind of economic life, where chance, the chance cards, right, and the community chess cards, can ruin you. But the bank always wins by design. It's the only entity that never goes bankrupt. Ever. That's why everyone wants to be the banker. Generations grew up internalizing that borrowing from the bank, mortgaging at interest, is the only escape from ruin, while peer-to-peer aid is forbidden, because in Monopoly you cannot borrow from another player. That is also forbidden in the rules. So if your sister, your brother, your best friend, here's $100 so you don't go bankrupt. If you land on Boardwalk, the banker is supposed to say, no, players cannot lend other players money. You learn this the hard way when you have family and your daughter's crying or your son's crying or whatever, because that's the rules of the game. And here are the rules. I just wanted to put them up here. And these rules have not changed for almost 100 years. Right there it says the bank never goes broke. If the bank runs out of money, it may issue as much more as may be needed by merely writing on ordinary paper. It would seem that the Federal Reserve took their rules from the rules of Monopoly and just took that little part and put it in their bylaws. Conspiratorially, this ties into broader soft power strategies by elites. Think Tavistock Institute or CIA Cultural Ops. If you're not familiar with Tavistock, that's a whole rabbit hole that we could go into, down at one point. I would love to do a Tavistock channeling, but we'll leave that for another time. Monopoly could be seen as a domestic psyop embedding pro-bank, pro-rent ideologies under the guise of family fun. And that's really what a lot of these psyops are, the bread and circuses back in the Roman times and all. Pop culture, music, this kind of thing, they present something as fun, whether it's a concert or the Super Bowl or anything like that. But there are a lot of these things underneath going on. Created by Lizzie Magie in 1904 and initially called the Landlord's game, Charles Darrow created a variant of the game which he then sold to Parker Brothers. Now, some say sold, some say licensed, but eventually, of course, Parker Brothers owned, today, of course, they own the game. The purchase price for the game was $500. That was for Charles Darrow. Now, he did make a lot more money later on, and Lizzie Magie, however, was kind of screwed. She is the one who only got, I think, the $500. So now we're going to start dowsing. Now, check out my Monopoly chart. I made a special chart just for this session. It took me a couple hours, but it was fun. And we're going to ask some questions about really the idea of, does anything that I said, or anything, this is a total theory that I came up with, is it at all true? Is it complete baloney? Is it just a fun game that makes everybody broke? Hey folks, I'm interrupting this session just for 30 seconds. If you like what you are seeing, please take a second, like and subscribe. It would really, really help me out. This is a brand new channel and I would love to continue doing what I'm doing. If you have a topic of interest that you would like me to douse on, please let me know. I've got a list of topics already, but I would love to hear what you want me to look into. Let's start dowsing. What I thought would be interesting to do is we're going to try to bring in a few people and ask some questions that I posed. A lot of times when I do these sessions, I really have never contacted or attempted to contact certain entities. This is a first for me. I'm going to try to contact the board of Parker Brothers, the people that are no longer alive, that were in charge of Parker Brothers back in the 30s when they acquired Monopoly. Now, this question is a loaded question. I don't think I'm going to get a yes on this. I don't think necessarily that I'll get a no. I don't know. This is sort of a crazy question, but I wanted to give it a shot. So let me get this other angle here. There we go. So we could see both angles of the chart. And now before I start, I want to make clear that when I start my dowsing session, I always do protections first. The first thing I do is I take a few breaths. I try to relax myself as much as possible. I try to bring in the love and light from the one infinite divine creator from my crown chakra all the way down and make sure all my chakras are aligned. I sage the area, clear the area of all negative entities. I make sure that I am calm and relaxed, because if you're not calm and relaxed, you're not going to get the energies to come in properly. So let's ask this question here. First of all, we're going to ask to see, now we still have a yes, no. This is the chart, by the way, is mostly just a yes, no chart. I have the letters and numbers around also, but you could see that I also put in all the properties as pieces of the chart, and the railroads are all in there and the utilities are on there. But let's ask, I'm going to see if I could bring in the Parker Brothers folk. And the question is, let me get the PowerPoint one more time. I'm going to contact the Parker Brothers group. Question is, was there an underlying intent in creating and selling the board game of Monopoly to America to indoctrinate the masses with the landlord-tenant enslavement mentality? So even if this is just partially true, I want to ask to see if I can get a yes. So let me move my hand out of the way here. So first things first, I'm going to ask, please, can the Parker Brothers entity or the Parker Brothers group please come in? Okay, we're getting a yes. Thank you so much for coming in. I don't know if you've ever been contacted about any Monopoly questions. If you have, great. If not, this is your first. So can you please answer the question, was there any underlying intent at all that this was sort of a psyop or part of a Tavistock or anything of that nature to indoctrinate and enslave the people of America with the mentality that they will be renters for eternity? I'm getting a very strong yes there. I don't know if you could see that or not. That's a very strong yes. If the last answer was yes, do you believe that you were successful in that venture? Do you believe that you were successful in that venture? Okay, I'm getting a yes. Even if sometimes the pendulum goes over just a tad, the circle there, if it is 90% to the right or to the left, you can say you can feel it, by the way. When you're dowsing, you feel the energy coming in. I know the answer sometimes to a question that I'm asking. Almost the second I say the question, I'm feeling an energy down my arm, and I kind of know where the pendulum is going to swing. I don't direct it. Sometimes, and I want to make this very clear to some of you that might say, oh, you're moving the pendulum, or, oh, you think about yes and you're getting yes. Here's the thing. I've been doing this for quite a few years, and let me tell you, I've tested the crap out of these things, because I will ask a question where I know possibly the answer might be a yes or a no, and I will say, like the Jedi mind trick, I will really concentrate and say no, say no, say no, or say yes, say yes, say yes. And I still get an answer that the pendulum is giving me or the universe is giving me. You can believe it or not. This is for entertainment purposes only. Like and subscribe, like I said, if you do like what I'm doing. Another Parker Brothers question. Now, this is going to be an agree or disagree. And what I'm going to do is, since I don't have agree or disagree on my chart, I have it on another chart. I'm going to bring in another chart here and put it on top, my normal chart. Now, agree or disagree. Instead of warning against monopolies, it celebrated them, training players to aspire to be the oppressor rather than question the system. Magie's anti-capitalist origins were erased, replaced with Darrow's rags to riches myth. What I did now is I put a different chart here. We're going to go back to the Monopoly chart. Don't worry about it. Notice on the top of the chart here, I have my whole section here of strongly agree, somewhat agree, mildly, maybe more, balance, and then the disagrees over here. So with that question, I'm not asking for a yes or no, because it could be some gray area there. So am I partially true there? Is it partially false? Is it more true or more false? Agree or disagree? Instead of warning against a monopolist, that I'm not going to read it all again, you can see it there, but is that an agree or disagree? Okay, this is right on the line of mildly agree, maybe more yes. So I'm getting here, kinda, which is fine. We're still on the same, we're still on the same theory. Just to show you, if you do look up the Landlord's game, the Landlord's game was designed to demonstrate the economic ill effects of land monopolism. So it was anti-monopoly. Initially, and this is a board, as you could see up there, of the initial monopoly game, and the use of land value tax as a remedy for it. Originally, the goal of the game was simply to obtain wealth. The people to obtain wealth, not the bank. And it was changed, it was flipped. So that's what we're questioning. So now, since we had the definition there of what Lizzie Magie's initial intent was when she created the game of Monopoly, I thought, okay, thank you, Parker Brothers. Thank you very much, by the way. I want to say thank you, Parker Brothers group, entity. Go and maybe you're designing other games, I don't know, up in heaven, or who knows where you are. I'm going to try to contact Lizzie Magie. She died in 1948. She was supposedly the initial creator of the Landlord's game, as you saw that entry from Wikipedia. Now, so first we're going to ask for her to come in, and then we're going to ask this question. Lizzie Magie, can you please bless us with your presence? Can you please come in? I'll move my hand. So we can ask you some questions about Monopoly. Okay, we're getting a yes. During your human lifetime, did you feel cheated or betrayed to when it came to how Parker Brothers treated you with regard to the selling of Monopoly? That's a fair question, right? I mean, I would if that happened to me. $500 and no royalties. So, did you at all feel cheated, at least in your human lifetime? Maybe not now, But did you feel that way when you were alive? Okay, that's a clear yes. So now we're going to go on to the next inventor of Monopoly, the next person who made millions off of the Monopoly game, and that is Charles Darrow. And this is just real quick an entry here in Wikipedia about Charles Darrow. You could see him there on the right posing with the Monopoly set. And we're going to see if we're going to contact Charles. First, oh, I'm sorry, Liz. We're going to thank you first. Thank you, Liz. I only had one question for you, or I think it was just one question. Thank you so much for coming in and answering that question. We're going to now move on to Charles Darrow. So this question, Charles, first of all, we're going to ask if you can come in. And he might not like the question that I'm asking, but he might not even come in, to be honest with you, because he knows this question is not a nice question. But I have some other questions for him. Can I ask, please, for Charles Darrow, the inventor of the second stage of Monopoly, to come in? Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you please answer some questions for us about the game of Monopoly? Let's go back to balance here, back to the circle, and not swing the pendulum. There we go. And I'm going to ask, did you steal the core idea of Monopoly from Lizzie Magie, the Landlord's game, and license it to Parker Brothers? Yeah, people, you don't know what people will answer on the other side. You know, they might lie, they might not. Hopefully they won't lie. But I'm going to say, did you steal the game and license it to Parker Brothers? Oh, Charles, you naughty boy. That's a yes. You made millions of dollars through licensing and selling Monopoly rights to Parker Brothers. Liz Magie only received $500 from her patent. From where you are now, not a human perspective, was this fair? All right. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that question, right? So do you feel kind of like guilty, right? Well, hold on. I said, was this fair? Was this fair? So I don't want to change the yes, no. So, okay, was this fair? Okay, we're getting a no. Can you see that, folks? That's why I didn't want to say, I didn't want to change the question. Was this fair? He said no. So hopefully he's in a little bit of regret for what he did. So those are all the serious questions that I had, but I thought, why not have a little fun? Since I created, honestly, I spent hours creating this Monopoly chart. We got to use it and ask some questions about the greens and the blues and all that kind of stuff. We can't just not use it just for yes or no. I still have Charles with us, and we've got our Monopoly chart here. Charles, since you know the game probably better than anybody, can you please answer the question? Which Monopoly, the greens, the blues, the oranges, etc., is the most loved or most wanted Monopoly that gamers want to get? Whoa! Holy crap. Ladies and gentlemen, do you see that? We're going to Boardwalk. We're going to Boardwalk in Park Place as the top one that people want to get. Well, of course. It's like $400 or something like, no, $400 to buy it, right? But $2,000, right? When you get all those hotels on there. Anyone ever play Monopoly where you again, don't listen to the rules? Because the rules say you're only allowed one hotel per property. You ever play when you could put like 7 or 8 hotels on a property? I've done that when I was a kid. Okay, so I thought this would be another really fun question to ask. Which Monopoly, of course, the greens, the blues, the oranges, etc., is the least loved or least wanted Monopoly that gamers want to get? I mean, why not? I mean, obviously Boardwalk and Park Place, well, was the most wanted to get, but let's see what the least one is. I mean, I don't know exactly, but so can I ask Charles, please, what is the least? Oh my God. Are you actually planning to go to jail? Okay, that's pretty cool. You got to admit, that's pretty cool. I did not expect it to go to jail. I thought it would go to Baltic or Mediterranean or the railroads maybe, or the utilities. I hate the utilities. Go to jail. You saw it, folks. Wow. Okay. As a monopoly strategy, which is the monopoly that will most likely win you the game? Okay. I was told when I did my research that Boardwalk and Park Place, you should really not get those. You know, they're the most wanted, but not, it's for strategic purposes. Okay, for the game. So I like the oranges, but let's see what Charles has to say. So Charles, in all your playing of Monopoly, which do you think is the ones that would most likely win you the game? And it looks like the purples, right? Is it the purples? Huh. Let me try this again because I just want to make sure. I'll go back to balance. So, Charles, which of the monopolies will most likely win you the game? Huh. You know, my brother always got the purples, and let me tell you something. He always won. So maybe it is the purples. Whether or not there was ever a PSYOP or not, let's face it, the game Monopoly will always bring up nostalgia, childhood, and family time. Let me know if you guys like this session or not. Let me know what your favorite Monopoly is. I'd love to know. Mine is the oranges. I loved the New York St. James Place because it's like right when you go into free parking, everybody's like, I need a 7. I need a 7 to free parking. And you're like, no, you don't. You need a 4, 6, or 7 to land on one of my orange properties and pay me money because everyone's so excited when they get the free parking. Do you play with free parking? You know, it's another thing. People would put their tax money in the center of the pot. And when you land on free parking, you grab that money. That's not in the rules. That's a user thing. What are some of your rules? Maybe we'll do a Monopoly version 2 and just do all the user. Oh, I'd love to do that. Oh, that would be fantastic. Do another version of this. We'll probably bring in some other Monopoly folks, right? And ask all their favorite rules, the user rules, that they bend the rules, because people do that all the time. All right, folks, I hoped you enjoyed this session. It was certainly interesting. If you have any questions, comments, please let me know what you think. If you liked what you saw, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. I would love to do more of these sessions. If you have any topics for me, please feel free to write them in the comments, and I'll start a list of all the topics that we can do because there's so many things we can ask. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Catch you on the next one.